Yeah, right now it looks like the owner.
Hold up.
No. Yep. You good?
All right, yeah, we on. Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast, The Wire Remix, Season 3, Episode 7, Backburners. As always, I'm joined by one Robert Sapp. How you doing,
Yes,
Mr. Sapp?
sir. How you doing?
Doing well. Um,
Good to hear.
this episode, very intriguing episode. Now, Vulture had this episode ranked 16th all time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back to that. Um, Directed by Tim Van Patten, of course, one of the great television directors. That you'll find. It's just everything. You've seen him all over HBO. Um, and the epigraph, "Conscience Due Cost" by one Butchie. So, in regards to the ranking, now for the most part, I would say that I've agreed with Vulture when they rank the episodes high, like their upper tier rankings. I haven't had a major problem with. This is the first episode, and I'll say that I didn't think that this was a top 20, top 16 episode. To be honest with you, so this is the first time I actually disagree with their upper rankings. With their when they rank episodes high. So, but I mean, still very good episode. Great bridge episode to what's going to transpire in episode 8. Um, as far as themes goes, a couple of things jumped out. I had one, "Death by a Thousand Cuts," in regards to the Barksdale organization, and also "No Conscience." Conscience due cost. Well, there's some characters that had no conscience in this particular episode.
Can I also add one I was thinking about?
Go ahead.
The truth hurts.
Yep. Yeah. The truth. Yes.
I'll add on as we go through, but yeah, I noticed that throughout this episode. I was like, oh yeah, this is the episode when it gets really real.
Yeah. So opening scene, we see Herc and another officer. They are, near Amsterdam, or not even. I don't think they were near Amsterdam. They were just surveying, just shooting the shit, and they spot one Avon Barksdale. So before that, no, hold on. Before that, this is the same scene, but before that, you see Avon in the car with Slim Charles. They're looking over the corners. Slim Charles is basically, giving Avon giving Avon the 411 on what's going on in regards to what transpired after they dropped the body in last episode. That the police are packing the corners. Avon says, "Hey, this how that's how it be. That's how it is. Sometimes that's how it is at times." So Slim Charles says, gives him an update on Marlowe. Says Marlowe is wholesaling his package. He's backed off his corners, or at least on the main corners. And Avon now says, "Whoa, dang! I thought that I was starting to just respect the motherfucker for showing some heart." He says so. Avon instructs Slim Charles to, as soon as the police roll up off the corners, go take my corners. And as he pulls off, you see Herc spots Avon, tells the other officer that, hey, I thought I locked him up. Why is he out? How's he out? And it was interesting because from a standpoint of Herc didn't immediately know Avon. Like he didn't immediately know the name Avon. He's like, yeah, the big guy from the projects or whatever. The name Avon didn't immediately come out of his mouth. He just said, yeah, I locked him up on a previous detail. And he ends up brushing it off, and they end up talking about some sandwiches, pork beef sandwiches, or something like that. So interesting from that standpoint. What were your thoughts on this opening scene?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the opening scene goes, it's a fine opening scene. I mean, it's not the most memorable, but it's also well executed. Fine opening scene gets the kind of like the energy going for the episode of who's going to know what when. You know, you kind of get the subtext right there that there's going to be a finding out episode, particularly about Avon's whereabouts. And so that sets the stage for that, but also just something that we've been talking about since season 1. This is actually the fuse that lights the wick to the dynamite that the Barksdale organization constructed in season 1 when they killed Brandon. This is now all chickens. Anyways, that's the beginning of it. This is the beginning of it. So I'll leave it at that as we go through the episode.
So we go to the detail. The detail course is on Marlowe and also is on Marlowe and Stringer. The Marlowe and Stringer at this point, of course, they don't know the Avon. The Avon is out. So you see the detail. You see the detail thinking that this is a Stringer Marlowe war in regards to that. And you see them start to look into that. You see the detail. You see the assignments get shifted from Kentel Williamson to Marlowe and Stringer. Marlowe Stringer, Marlowe Barksdale to the Marlowe Barksdale Marlowe Stringer war, and you see some unhappy officers in terms of Prez and Signer, who have done all this police work on Kentel Williamson, and to be told that, hey, we're going to put this to the side. Our focus now is on, of course, Marlowe and the Barksdale war. What were your thoughts on this?
Oh, this is the first of my theme of the truth hurts. This was this is what we've been talking about with McNulty this entire time. And this is what we've been talking about when we mean McNulty is selfish as all hell.
Right.
This is the point. Even though, Stringer's a worthy target, Barksdale's worthy. We know that. That's not the argument. The argument is who gets to decide that? Why does he feel like he gets to decide that? And he doesn't. And what are the consequences on everybody else? And what makes you selfish is when you make a move totally about yourself, no matter the consequences to anybody else. And that's the point. And that's what Signer was saying to this. And that's what everybody, this is the first of a few coming to, as my grandmother used to say, coming to Jesus conversation that people are going to have in this episode. And Signer framed it right. I mean, he's perfectly valid and correct in his point. It's just like, why can't we finish this before we move on to the other thing? Not only is it the worst for the people who work that case, but also the case, nothing has been resolved. Nothing happened. Now they're switched on to another one. And so that's also really poor workmanship in any craft. To leave a job half done is not good craftsmanship or not good workmanship. No matter what job you're working. And so that's bad business. And that's kind of like what the show has been saying about the structure of the police work at that point in time, particularly at that point in time in Baltimore City, is it's sloppy and it's half-assed and it's reactive. And that's all the worst places to be.
Yeah. So McNulty, of course, and this can be a surprise, to anyone. McNulty is the first of the characters that I would put in the case of in the category of no conscience. There's no conscience in regards to his decisions, in regards to others, and how his decisions affect others or affect others. So he, we see the epigraph conscience due cost, and we will discuss characters over the course of this episode who do who do have a conscience and who are cognizant of their decisions and how their decisions are affecting other people. McNulty falls into that category of gives zero fucks. It's in regards to his decisions, how his decisions affect others. And we spoke on this. You spoke on this in particular. He also falls in that category of the tunnel vision. Just sees one thing. He sees Stringer Bell. That's it. So yeah, we'll flesh that out even more throughout the course of the episode. So get a brief conversation between Cuddy and his supervisor in regards to basically, supervisor says, I know, you walk through those doors. Cuddy comes out, basically says, yeah, but it wasn't for me. He's continuously told him, hey, I'll continuously put you on jobs if you show up. I'll continuously put you on jobs, and we see how their relationship is progressing. You see Cuddy, not maybe looking at him as a mentor, but looking at him, Cuddy has a healthy respect for him, considering that he's been down some of the similar roads that Cuddy has traveled, and he gave him a job. Bottom line. So, what were your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, this is now the analogy we made is the angel and the devil. Barksdale's organization was the devil on his shoulder. This is the angel on the shoulder, and so the angel is finally starting to win out.
Yeah. Yes. In this episode, definitely. The Angels definitely won out for one. Dennis Wise. McNulty and Daniels. So Daniels confronts McNulty over going over his head to Coven. He asked him at first. He asked him, did he go over his head? Did he go directly to Coven? McNulty says, I would have went to the devil himself. Stringer is the target. He's always been a target. And Daniels Daniels tells him, you need to, when the cuffs go on Stringer, you need to go find another unit. He's done with McNulty. McNulty, of course, sees one thing, and of course that was Stringer Bell. But listen, Daniels has been in the game for a while. Daniels, I like this scene from the standpoint of Daniels knew what time it was in terms of how quickly they got shifted targets. So I like the fact that Daniels was aware or had an idea of what was going on from in terms of who he's dealing with in regards to McNulty. What were your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, damn that. This is when it got all the way real. This is the conversation I've been waiting for. Since we started doing this thing. This is what I've been waiting for. This is when Daniels just says, you know what? Damn that. I know who you are, and I know this is how you operate, and I don't want anybody on my unit, no matter how good they are, who is not going to follow my instructions. Period. Point blank. End of story. And you're gone after this. And I love this show for that.
Yeah, he called. Yeah, not only that. Before he says, you need to find a new unit. He called him a piece of shit.
Yeah, he is a piece of shit. He is. He called him what he is. He is. He absolutely is.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a scene that, of course, that was.
And that is a defining moment in Keena's progression as well.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's way, way more down the road, but this is where she kind of can start really soaring on her own.
So we get to Bernard and Shamrock. Bernard, of course, is works for the Barksdales. Shamrock gives him some money to go pick up a new batch or a new order of burners. We will see plays out. So that definitely is a setup for some scenes moving forward. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on the Bernard Shamrock?
Set up.
Colvin Mello. So Colvin sees that Amsterdam is working in terms of the numbers, but he's not getting too excited. He says, "Listen, let's, the numbers are not like the numbers. Crime is going has went down in parts of his area like 4%. So they were not overwhelming, but he's hesitant to get too excited about it." Um, and he lets them know, let's not, let's just, obviously keep doing what we're doing, but not get too excited about the fact that we've seen these numbers drop, and the drop hasn't been substantial, but they're still incremental. What were your thoughts on this?
It's definitely set up. Also, like as we've been saying, he's a reformer, but also I was watching something and they summed it up perfectly, where it was just like big changes don't happen. Like that's not how any of this works. Where it's just like, oh, one big huge change. It happens in increments, and so that's what he's saying, and that's very logical reformer. Is that there's not going to be big huge changes, i.e., what Stringer's trying to do. You got to do it in little tiny increments, and that's how you get to change. That's how you get to progress.
We get back to Bernard and Squeak. Squeak, of course, is his girlfriend. He goes into a store, a market, and just buys 2 disposable burners. And of course, she's annoyed by this, but he is following, at this point, is following the orders of the Barksdale organization from in terms of just buying 2 burners, not to draw, of course, a lot of attention if he buys in bulk. So we'll see how this plays out. Any thoughts on this?
Set up.
Carcetti and Burrell, they discussed the witness assistance program. Carcetti says Burrell tells Carcetti that the mayor hasn't had any mention of it. So this kind of gets Carcetti's wheel spinning that much more when he gets, and of course this continues a pattern of Carcetti getting information, information about the mayor, and information, continue, having sources, finding different sources of information, whether it's the mayor, whether it's somebody in the mayor's cabinet, or whether it's a Tony Gray. So Carcetti is continuously getting information that is benefiting his cause. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yes, he's continuously getting information because he's seeking out that information. He's planting the seeds for it, or in Burrell's case, that is specifically Burrell's job to him, is to give him information. And so with that being said, this is set up for a scene later in this episode where I'll go a little bit more substantially into that.
So we get back to the detail. They're discussing the burners. Freeman wants a burner from the Barksdales, and they, trying to basically figure out, how to, this is the beginning of them trying to figure out how to go about using this to further the case. So we're going to get, of course, the episode is called Backburners. So this is kind of the beginning of their, their journey into finding out more about, about these burners and how they are, and how they can move forward with the case in using these burners. But Freeman says, hey, let's, the beginning of this is getting me a burner from the Barksdales, from one of the Barksdale dealers. What were your thoughts on this?
Yes, set up.
Get back to Bernard and Squeak. Again, Bernard goes into another store, a different store, and just buys two disposable phones. Squeak, like this, like the previous scene, continues to complain to Bernard about about not buying in bulk.
Yep, set up.
We get to McNulty, Kima, and Signer. So they're looking at Bodie use the burner. Of course, they were given not given an order, but told Lester Freeman that they would that they would get a burner, or Freeman asked him to get a burner from the Barksdales. So they're looking at they're looking at Bodie. McNulty comes up with an idea that's not revealed in this scene, but he basically says, "I got a better idea. I'll we'll do it. We'll come back tomorrow," and decides to take everybody to the bar. Drinks on him and they just miss seeing Avon appear with Bodie. I want to get on this. I want to speak on this on Avon real quick. So through the course of this scene, not this scene, through the course of this episode, we've seen Avon twice in a car or in a truck. In the truck. Season 1, it took us 4 or 5 episodes to see Avon in public. The detail didn't even know what Avon looked like. So, and I thought about him shaking Bodie's hand. That, to my knowledge, that is the first time Avon has even met Bodie. Like, Avon didn't used to deal with like middle management or dealers. Like, it just like even to acknowledge. So I thought about something that you said, last episode, that Avon, yeah, he's the kingpin, but he's operating up until this point in this episode in particular, he's operating like a soldier. He's operating like a soldier. Because twice, yeah, he is. No, at heart, yes.
Mm-hmm.
At heart, he's a soldier that became a kingpin. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is not the careful Avon who was paranoid about using the same payphone in season 1. This is not that he's not doesn't have that mindset right now. Because he didn't like I said, when I saw him shaking hands with Bodie, he didn't. I'm sure that is the first time that they've ever met. He never talked to Wallace or Poop or those cats like the I mean, he barely dealt. The only people he dealt with basically was Stringer and his top lieutenants, whether it be some of the names are eluding me, Weebay and Bird or those cats. I mean, top lieutenants, not even top of the chain lieutenants, of his circle. So this is a different Avon than what we've been accustomed to seeing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you spoke on Avon, so I'm not going to speak on that. The thing that I noticed the most in this scene is I know it's about them almost missing Avon, but to me, it's another in a long list of condemnations on McNulty. It's another. The reason they missed him is McNulty says, "Let's go to the bar. I have a better idea," and his better idea will be revealed shortly, and I'll be able to connect those two scenes together. So I'll wait for that scene.
So we go to Stringer and Donette. They're having dinner. Donette tells him that she mentioned that she told Brianna about McNulty. And Stringer, of course, gets upset, saying that, it's been a year. Everybody's forgotten about it. And, basically what mom is going to believe that her son didn't kill himself. He, of course, tries to get more information in regards to where Donette, not where Donette, but where Brianna is going to go to talk to, who Brianna is going to go talk to. Of course, Donette mentions the lawyer, and of course he tries to press her on, is it Levy? And she said, she says he didn't mention that, or she didn't mention that, and Stringer, feeling the heat from that standpoint of not even, of course, wanting to dig this up. And again, this is also goes in line with how you see an organization come apart in various ways. We saw Stringer, we'll see Bernard later, Bernard and Squeak, and we've already seen. This was a heavy Barksdale episode. So they're kind of giving you how the Barksdales are coming apart in various ways. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, truth hurts, Stringer. Truth hurts. I'll leave it at that.
Carcetti and Teresa Di Astino, she tells her about Royce and the state's witness. He has a strategy that he's going to go at. Royce directly. She gives him another way to go at Royce that doesn't require him, to basically be as aggressive as he has been. And this is the first time that they, and we'll see later on how he follows, when he takes her advice. But this is the first time that she advises him in terms of her. This is the first time you felt like she was his political man, his campaign manager, so to speak. It's kind of like them.
Well, I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead, because I know he's about to say. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say she is his campaign manager at this point. She's sitting
down
and meeting with him and his wife, and they're going over strategy. And so the strategy she laid out was very, very sound and made all the sense in the world to me. But to the wife's point, this is what The Wire is speaking to, not necessarily that there are politics in police work. I mean, everybody knew that. But to what that potentially looks like in terms of like citizens and things like that, when she makes the comment like, this is a great plan unless you're that second witness who got shot. Then life is not so great for you. And so, and homegirl says, great, that's it's going to look uglier from here. So, she didn't know how real her words were in that moment. When we're thinking about our lives now, today, politics is a very ugly business. So what The Wire actually presents in this episode is tame to what we know the level it can get to. But that was very ugly at that point in time in the show, to be like ugly from the point of like heartless, to think about like, oh, this is how we're gonna gain our political advantage, is if another witness gets killed.
Yeah, and the campaign manager named Teresa, she also wants him to get a read on Royce as well too. So that's a part of it. That's a part of it.
She has his read really quick. They have their read on Royce. What she doesn't want him to do is do what he normally does and go out and bang him start yelling at him everything publicly. Yeah. What she's saying is, hold this in your pocket. Hold it in your pocket. If this does come up again, then you can then unveil that you have already talked to him and that he did nothing. But not now, not when it's so far from the election.
Yeah, and then he ends the scene saying win-win.
Right.
So we have, we go to Bernard and Shamrock. Bernard has come back from a day of runs with getting burners. He He's informed by Shamrock that he will need another delivery of burners. They collect the receipts, or Shamrock collects the receipts and then tosses them in the trash without looking at them as he's on the phone with his girl or some girl. Squeaky, his girlfriend, Bernard's girlfriend, notices this through the doorway. So again, you have Shamrock, who was given this assignment by Stringer, not looking at not looking at the receipts. We will explain why that's important later on, of course, over the course of later on in this episode. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, sloppy.
Bubbles at Amsterdam. So Bubbles goes down to Amsterdam. He's selling his T-shirts. This is at night, and he sees just basically hell. I mean,
Yep.
he
Yep.
is like completely just taken back at what he's seeing with what's going on with the prostitution, the drug use, the number of kids and teenagers that are that are around there. He sees, and taking this in consideration, think about what Bubbles has been through in his life and what this guy has seen. He's seen some shit. So for Bubbles to be kind of like taken back is, you're dealing with some next level dysfunction as far as what has been created by Colvin. He spots Johnny. Johnny, of course, this is the opposite for Johnny. Johnny is in heaven. Johnny, matter of fact, Johnny calls it paradise. And and Bubbles, of course, been in the game for a while. He recognizes that, hey, man, I need to get this dude up out of here. He tries to get Johnny. Johnny just says, basically he's like, no, I'm good. And we have in this scene a guy, with a conscience in regards to Bubbles. Bubbles, despite the fact that, he Bubbles, despite the fact he can easily just go about his business, just sell his T-shirts, but he sees a friend in need, tries to pull him out, but that friend is long gone. To be perfectly honest with you, I love the camera action in this scene, giving Bubbles perspective. So I thought they did a tremendous job with that. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, tremendous scene. Super hard to watch. Tremendous scene.
Yeah, not.
Yep. Nope. Everything I have nothing to add to anything you said. Is spot on, and this was a hard scene, a tremendous scene.
Now we get back to Kima and go to Kima and Cheryl. Kima, of course, went out drinking with McNulty and Signer, comes home drunk. They finally have it out in regards to their current situation with the baby. Basically Kima says, I basically wanted this. You wanted this, and I didn't want to disappoint you. Then she begins it by saying, I miss us. And of course, Cheryl takes that, she takes it as meaning, she's blaming the baby for their current predicament in their relationship. And that probably not the thing to.
She takes it for what it means.
Yep. She does take it for what it is, because Kima does.
Mm-hmm.
Kima does miss just her and Cheryl, and never wanted that baby. So Cheryl's able to sit through that, and basically tells Kima, yeah, you can't stay here tonight. And we see Kima head out the door. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, truth hurts. Very real, very real. I mean, like this. Yep. We've talked about it, and now that was when it actually happened.
We go back to Amsterdam with Carver. So Carver is noticing that, in spite of the success of Amsterdam in regards to you seeing it, saying, people packed there. And from that standpoint, he notices that, the mid-level dealers have let go their runners and have let go some of the young hoppers, and he forces them to pay a tax to sell drugs at Amsterdam. So Carver, I guess, feeling like feeling like these dudes feeling like he's looking out for the workers, for the runners and the younger hoppers who the dealers have cut loose. And this kind of like you see a scene like this and you think about this is business. Like, sometimes people get cut, people get laid off in terms of jobs every day. So you see these mid-level drug dealers saying, "Hey, we don't need runners," so they've cut them loose. But Carver forces them to pay into a tax to sell drugs there. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is more about Carver's development than anything else. And so, yes, everything you said is accurate, and this is a key moment in Carter's personal development as a character.
And this also not begins, but this also, it somewhat begins a divide in terms of idea, philosophy with he and also Herc as well, because Herc notices this, and of course, and does not by any stretch agree with it. And we'll talk about that, of course, later on. We go to well, McNulty and Signer came up briefly, but without, they we'll get back to that. Omar and Butchie. So we go to Omar and Butchie. So Omar, of course, is still feeling guilty about the murder from Tasha, and was really, the conversation that Bunk had with him last episode really is sticking in his craw. And Butchie, the veteran that he is of the game, and kind of at a stage of his career where he says basically like, look, man, you can't allow Bunk to get in the way of your bottom line as far as your focus. Like, somebody in your position can't afford to not be not be focused on what he needs to do. He says somebody like that, he says, once those thoughts kind of creep up in your head, you're going to end up dead. So he tells him about this story about his uncle feeling guilty, his uncle feeling guilty over a woman, over losing the love of his life, and cut off his finger, and says the girl wasn't worth more than a pinky. So Omar, listens, of course he listens to Butchie, but still feels like he owes something, tells Butchie, hey, I still feel like I owe something, despite what Butchie had said in regards to Bunk. This was that mentor, that mentor relationship, that respect that they have, that mutual respect. Butchie being one of the few people that can talk to Omar, that he can confide in. And this was to your theme of truth hurts. So there's a continuation on that from that standpoint. And Butchie, of course, during this scene uses the epigraph, conscience due cost. Or no, not he didn't. He actually said it in that scene, not the scene. But of course, we know Butchie said the epigraph, but not in this scene. No. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a really good scene. Pretty much everything you said, I agree with.
So we get to Levy and Stringer discussing McNulty and Brianna. Stringer, of course, is nervous about the idea of this even coming up in regards to D'Angelo. He's trying to figure out a way to kind of quiet McNulty as far as filing a complaint and things of that nature. He also, you know, Levy basically says, that's not going to help out. That's not going to do anything. Um, and then Levy mentions that, what about Avon in regard, what about, I guess, Avon should know this, should know this. And, Stringer says he will, at the end of the scene, Stringer says, let me handle it. I will handle that. Let me handle that.
Yep.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't say too much on this because this is leading up to a lot, but this is very smart what the show's doing right now. It's very, very smart what they're doing.
You want to expand on that, or you can't say?
No way. I can't expand on that right now.
So we get to McNulty, Kima, and Signer. They bust Bodie and a couple of his crew members with a G-Pack, and they get their first taste as far as hearing about Amsterdam. They switch the phones, so they get they get Bodie's phone and give him a phone that they had that looked similar to his. So they get their phone for Lester, and they get their first they get their this is the first time they hear of Amsterdam. And also, by the way, Bodie and his crew members, of course, are upset because they figured that all the cops knew about this agreement that they had with Colvin, and they find out that, of course, that McNulty and Kima and them have no idea about this. What were your thoughts on this?
So I want to connect this back to the scene that I was talking about with them in the room with McNulty or when he was inviting them to the bar, and then he was talking about another method, and so his method was to take evidence out of the evidence locker, remove that evidence, and replace it with replace the phone with replace Bodie's phone with the evidence from the locker room. So yeah, McNulty taking the shortcut.
Yeah. Yep. And again, getting back to what I said, what I mentioned earlier in the podcast, McNulty, McNulty gives zero fucks. I mean, he's not concerned about what effect, putting other officers in harm's way as far as Signer and, Kima. Not concerned about it. He's really not. In regards to this decision, Carver, we get back to Carver. Carver, of course, in Amsterdam forces the mid-level dealer to pay the young hoppers. So we see that briefly as the guy kind of acknowledges that hey, he paid him. Anything to add to that? So we see Carver, Herc, and McNulty. So they all meet up. As McNulty, of course, McNulty and Herc, as McNulty had busted Bodie by going towards Amsterdam, and we see that Herc says, not Herc. We see Carver says, can't do this. They would head towards the free zone. Can't do this, and of course, McNulty has no idea about what the free zone is. They don't have any idea about what the free zone is. And Carver, you see Herc say they did have a G-Pack, but then that's what I'm talking about in regards to their divide. So McNulty starts. So McNulty, this is the first time McNulty starts to get a sense of what the free zone is. They call they make a call to Coven. Coven, so Coven is on his way there, on his way to meet up with them. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, like it's a very intense scene in terms of what is going on, and then like again, it falls into like kind of like the thing that I noticed for myself of just like the truth hurts, and that's exactly what he's saying. Is like this is painful to everyday police because this is not how anybody was trained, and so the truth hurts right there. But Coven and McNulty
No, that's
definitely
not. No, that's not it.
bond over.
No, we're not there
Oh,
yet.
okay,
No, we're not
so
there.
yeah.
Coven hasn't
So then I'll
arrived.
stop right there.
Stop yet. Coven hasn't arrived yet.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll
So
stop
we
right
get
there.
to Omar and Butchie. So Omar, decides to. Of course, he's not giving up evidence for he's not going to give up any witnesses. So Omar decides to pay $1,500 for Doberman's gun. Then we hear Butchie say the epigraph, conscious due cost. Omar tells Butchie, I'm not paying. I'm not going to pay until I get to his confirmation that this is the gun. So so this is Omar uh, in his way paying back something, paying back something based off feeling guilty for the murder of his partner Tasha a couple episodes back. Um, what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, exactly. I don't have anything else to add. Exactly.
We get to Bernard and Squeak. Again, he buys 2 phones. He gets chastised by Squeak, but this time he she basically makes him an offer he can't refuse by offering him offering him a head in the car, and we will see again we will see how that we will see what that leads to. Again, this is how an organization comes apart thread by thread. Any thoughts on this?
Setup.
Bunk gets a call about from Butchie about the gun. So we'll see how that plays. We will see how that plays out later on in the episode. So we get back to Bernard. Bernard goes into the Mondo Mart and buys 8, count them, 8 burner phones. Keep in mind, throughout the course of the episode, it was only expected, or he was directed to only buy 2 at a time. He buys 8 burner phones. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, to your point. So I mean, thread by thread, sloppy. On everybody's part.
Yeah. We get to Colvin, McNulty, and Kima. So you see Colvin trying to explain Amsterdam to Kima and McNulty. Says it's a tactical deployment. You know, he says that he convinces McNulty to keep quiet. Yeah, I mean McNulty being his former, he being his former say pupil and working former commander. McNulty is an easy sell. Of course, Kima and Cigna are not buying it at all from that standpoint. They have a conversation to the side in terms of just McNulty and Colvin. And McNulty just says they're just going to go back to their corners once this is broken up. And Colvin's just saying, I'm just trying to save what's left of my district by any means. By any means, and he just he kind of pleads with McNulty to kind of like keep this to keep it quiet. What are your thoughts on this conversation?
Yeah, this is where I was about to get into on the last one where they bond over not being very truthful and in particularly not being very truthful to the bosses. And it is a plan, a reaction that is based off of desperation, which some things can happen based off of that, but not usually really great things happen based off of creating plans off of that. And you can tell at this point in time, COVID doesn't really have a next step to this.
No, I thought the scene. I love this scene from the standpoint of these two characters are exactly who I'm talking about in regards to not having a conscience when it comes to what they want to do and the decisions that they're making to serve, you know, to serve their own their own interests. Now, and I thought this was just a perfect scene from that standpoint of just having these two because they were bonding. This was bonding. Um, they, you know, Coben doesn't have a next step, and they're both. We've seen over the course of this episode, and we've seen over the course of the last couple of episodes of even of most of the season. They both were making decisions out of desperation to serve their own causes. So I love the scene from that standpoint as well. We go to yeah. So we go to Butchie and Bunk and Butchie. So Bunk gets to the bar, goes to Butchie's bar, sees that Butchie is blind. He receives the gun from Butchie that has that has the tie that Omar wore in court back in season 2 wrapped around it. Omar then not Omar, but Bunk then wraps it around Butchie's neck, saying that I'm thinking that he'll need this in court one day, and takes a gun in court and walks out the bar. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Yep. The Butchie, it's unspoken. The part that I really liked was just like I think like who it is, like when he was telling him that. So I really enjoyed that piece. Good bit of acting by both of the actors here. So very good scene.
So we see
And it closes up the Dozerman gun case or
yes,
mystery.
yes,
That.
Yeah, it closes that particular storyline, wraps that up.
Mm-hmm.
So we see Slim and Pooh on one of Marlowe's corners. Of course, Marlowe has pulled back as far as not having guys on his main corners and also wholesaling his product. So Slim, Pooh is kind of like, yo, this is Marlowe's corner. Can we be here? And Slim saying, you got muscle with you. You're on a Barksdale. This is a Barksdale corner now. Don't worry, don't worry about it. We'll see how that turns out. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this one, so it's big time setup.
Go back to the detail. They get Freeman Bodie's burner with minutes on it, and you see McNulty getting information on Teresa DiGasino. Earlier in the scene, he put Prez on, asked Prez to go look up information about her. Of course, it has nothing to do with the case. Prez asked him, how does this relate to the case? And, McNulty basically gives him some bullshit. And so he ends up getting information about Teresa DiGasino. Of course, he slept with her in the previous episode. What are your thoughts on this thing?
Yeah, but McNulty using police resources to get himself laid.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts on it.
yeah, that is McNulty. Cuddy and the Deacon. So we see last time we saw these two together, you saw Cuddy walk out the church, basically saying, I didn't think it was gonna play like this, as the deacon told him, like, we don't get jobs. You're gonna work for what you earn. Like, we're not gonna like just hand you a job. So now we see a Cuddy coming in, a vulnerable Cuddy, a Cuddy who has been, humbled by, what his circumstances are. He's open to the deacon, and basically he says to the deacon, look, I sometimes basically said I do things that I just don't want to do. And he basically said, and gets to a point to where he got to a point to where he's sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you see at the end of this scene that he decides to, when the deacon calls him Cuddy, he says, no, I'm Dennis. So
Yep.
to your point, we see, the angels just overtake Cuddy's life from that standpoint. What are your thoughts on this interaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, just great job. Cuddy had to go through hell to get to his heaven. Let's complete the analogy. I mean, they're not even being subtle with it because he's literally talking to a priest, so or someone heavily connected with the church, and so deacon, and so yeah, he's got to go through hell to get to his salvation. The opposite, they're playing with a lot of different parallels right here. The hell that Bubs was walking through, and then trying to get his friend out of it, but his friend calls that paradise because in their warped world, or that addicted world, that is actually paradise, but it's really reflective of you're really living through hell. And the same is with drug dealing. The same is with get all parts of the game. It's actually hell, but you think it's not that because of bright shiny things and all that. So, anyways, they're playing with a lot of different themes here. But ultimately, it's like I said, Cuddy is the only legitimate reformer here. And the reason why he's the only legitimate reformer is because of this right now. What's going on right now, what he had to go through and where he's at. Cuddy's reached his bottom. And his bottom was, I don't want to do this anymore. He saw that young man killed and shot and was like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm over it. I'm not taking another life. I'm not playing this game anymore. And he completely takes off that other life when he releases the Cuddy name. Yep. Nah, I'm Dennis. So that goes right in hand with what Avon was saying right at the end of last episode. He's a man. He's a man now. And as we all know, there's a lot that goes into being a man, but a big part of that is taking responsibility for yourself and your actions, which a lot of characters, as we pointed out, are not there yet. So that's why Cuddy represents the best case of someone who's actually worthy of being redeemed and somebody who's actually worthy of being a reformer. We have a lot of pretenders. The show is making a case for Cuddy to be the real one.
Yeah, Cuddy's the real thing at this point. Yeah, and we'll see how
they're making the case. They're making the case right now. Up at this point in time, there's no way we could call him the real thing.
Well, he's developed.
They're starting to make the case.
Yes. He's developed. Yes, he's headed in that direction per se.
Yeah.
You see McNulty, of course, attempts to get in contact with Teresa. He gets her, makes a call, gets her, and ends up getting her. Doesn't speak to her directly, but ends up getting her whereabouts. We'll see how that transpires later on in the episode. Carcetti and Royce, they discussed the witness protection program. Royce basically says the money's not there. and tells Carcetti, I basically did everything I could do for this situation, looked into it. Um, in many words says tells Carcetti, I'm going as far as I'm going to go with this particular in terms of this particular situation. Carcetti, of course, sees all he has to see as Teresa's plan. Her plan in terms of his strategy works from that standpoint. What were your thoughts on this interaction?
Yeah, I mean, I set up.
We get back to Amsterdam. You have Carver, Colvin. Carver, of course, is having doubts in terms of the number of kids, or doesn't like the fact that there are so many kids in Amsterdam, which is a big. I mean,
Yes.
talk about foreshadowing. You talk about it just hit me when I see Carver's name with kids. That is it's a huge foreshadowing. Carver caring about kids. Not having now, let me make this clear. Not having doubts about Amsterdam, he's just concerned about the amount of kids that are there. He still believes in Amsterdam. He still believes in the idea of Amsterdam. Well, not
all right.
As in comparison to other officers, as in comparison to other officers, not totally into it.
Okay.
At this
That's
point,
fair.
He's still on Bunny's side at this point. But again, the key foreshadowing is the kids. Let's keep that in mind. McNulty and Teresa, she spots him. He goes to an event, puts a tie on, gets a drink, and sees that this is clearly political. This is something that's out of his element. He's about to leave. She catches him before he heads out, and of course, she gives him her hotel room and tells him to stay there, hang out in the hotel for 2 hours. For 2 hours before she gets there. So, mission accomplished for McNulty. Marlo, Chris, and Snoop. So they meet in a pigeon coop. Marlo compliments one of his, younger, I don't know if it's one of his younger peoples that works for him about how he's taking care of the pigeons. And he and Chris discuss their next step in regards to the corners. Chris says, Barksdale is going to think we're weak if we back off. And if we back off, he's going to be on those corners, which is exactly what Marlo wants. So we see how cunning Marlo is from that standpoint. As Chris smiles, knowing the plan that Marlo had in mind, and then we see the first assignment given to one Snoop as she has her first words of the series, and she says, she says, your turn, girl, and she says, about time. So we see, Marlo has his plan, and his plan is in the works. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think this ties in excellently with what you've been saying about the Barksdale organization, right? Like the whole thing, the whole point of beef between Stringer and Avon has been about corners, or point of contention, not beef, not at this point. The point of contention has been about corners and about Avon and the way that he thinks about things and the way that he thinks about territory and what is valuable territory. And the big thing is Avon keeps coming back to people are going to think we're weak. And as you pointed out, Marlo is very much exploiting that, but also he is himself not tied up into I have to stand on this corner to be strong. So it's an evolution of Avon that's going on with Marlo.
Yeah. We had a detail with Perlman McNulty They're looking at a computer where they're tracking calls from the burners, and they're basically trying to figure out what's going to be the next move as far as how can they get a wire up on the burners. Freeman has not figured that out yet, because those burners are disposable, and people, the dealers are not on them long enough in order to get a wire up at this point. But Perlman wants to get the wire up, so those seeds are immediately planted between Perlman and also Freeman is his wheels are spinning as far as trying to figure out how to the next move in regards to that. But Perlman wants to get the wire up, definitely wants to get the wire up. But Freeman says, we're not quite there yet. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's challenging to talk about burners because they're so not a reality. Like, they're so not a reality. And so this is meant to show how complicated it is to get connected to this burner network.
Yeah, lot of tech talk in this episode.
Yeah. It's fine, but it's such an obsolete technology.
Yeah, no, yeah, not
that we know. It's just obsolete. And if we stay in, we gotta stay in the time period. And so if we're staying in the time period, that's what it's about. It's about how complicated it is to get a wire. Like, they can't do it the traditional way by any stretch of imagination.
Also, a contrast in regards to going about an investigation. You mentioned earlier McNulty taking shortcuts. Lester doesn't take shortcuts. It's
Okay, yeah.
Well, up until this point,
You're right.
I know what you're thinking. I know you're right.
Yep. Yep. You're right. Nope. Not going to it.
So he's going to be like, all right, Lester up until this point is going to just try to figure shit out. So goes that tedious process of putting the pieces together to the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see so then we go back to Poop and another Barksdale soldier named Rico. We see Poop forgets Rico's cigarettes, so he goes back in the store for cigarettes, and then we see Snoop on the back of a bicycle come out of nowhere and kill Rico. And Poop, quick thinking, plays dead as Rico is shot. Of course, the other Barksdale soldier was in the store, so he came out late, and Poop survives. And Omar again gets the better. Not Omar, Marlo again gets the better of the Barksdale organization for the second straight episode. What were your thoughts on this?
He put his plan into place, and now we can fully talk about it. Like, he used their aggression against them. He used Avon's need for territory against them so that he could set up. And the funny thing is, like, there was a similar scene in, which season was that? Was it 2 or was it 1? It had to be 1, where D'Angelo got chewed out because he left the stash, the re-up, in a similar fashion. Now, this wasn't a re-up, but all of them were out of position, and particularly, like, it's not even about Poot on this one, because Poot was at the very least outside. Half the muscle was in the store buying something.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to the point that you've been saying this pretty much the entire time. This was another great example of where the Barksdale organization is at this point in time. Not good.
Yeah, Marlo definitely showed his his planning and strategic side, and not about just not, you know, we've seen when Marlowe strikes is with a purpose. So we saw last episode when the two, when the two Barksdales were killed, they were waiting for them because Marlowe was already prepared for war. We saw Marlowe the previous episode when they struck the Barksdale corner with the bats and stuff. That was, telling Fruit, they call him off guard there. That was telling Fruit, hey, I just need to see a move. So Marlowe has shown to be very strategic about the moves that he makes, and not just, they're very well thought out, And I think that, up until this point, again, Avon does not know who Marlowe is. So Avon is like being attacked by it. It's kind of like, to use a sports analogy of going to a game without a scouting report of the other team. Like you like, what I'm saying? So
I'm going to push back just a little bit. I like the analogy. I'm going to add, it's like you don't want the scouting report because you don't think the other team can beat you.
Yes. Yeah. That's. I think that's part of it too. I think because. Yeah, I mean, because he mentions, Avon mentions.
You're so confident in your. How about this? You're so confident in your team's skill that you're like, we don't need the playbook because we'll beat them because we're that good.
I don't know if Avon was that confident in his team's skill though at this point.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. It's Ril. You can't change it up. You've been talking this entire episode about the Barksdale organization and how choppy they are and how off their game and just how they've fallen. And so it has to be consistent in this. Avon is way overconfident in his skill. If we're going to keep it all the way real, he's not thinking about the other soldiers. He thinks he can out battle Marlowe. Yes, he does. From jump.
No, yeah, he's confident in himself, but I'm not sure that he's confident in his peoples around him. That's why I mentioned about him being out, like him literally being in the car, doing soldier type stuff like scouting corner stuff like that with Slim Charles, stuff that we never saw him do earlier. So I'm not.
Yeah.
He's more. I'm not sure.
I think what I'm saying is it's all part of the same problem. It's all stemming from the same place. You can't separate the others. You can't separate one from the other.
Yeah, no. I mean, the bottom
because
line,
of the lack of. Right. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, the bottom line is
the bottom line is
they're not in a good place right now. They're not.
No, not at all.
And we see because you see their heads are not. You see, like I'll look at it like this as well. So the Barksdales now versus the Barksdales way back when, there was a delegation of. There was kind of like a delegation of levels in regards to Avon did kingpin shit. Stringer was number 2, and they had a bunch of middlemen soldiers who were skilled. Now you got Stringer, who is halfway checked out in terms of he wants to be in real estate, so he's not doing his job. So it's kind of been like it's kind of been like from that standpoint. You got Avon not doing soldier type shit when that wasn't the case. So
if you want to do this now, we can outline every single mistake of the Barksdale organization, and there are so many. And so all of it is coming to a head.
Yeah. No.
But if you want to do it, we can go. I got a list on Stringer, Avon, everybody.
This is all throughout and this is why this episode was vital from that standpoint of showing you where they're at.
Where they're coming apart. It's showing you where they're coming apart at the seams.
And it's and you really think about it, this thought just came to my mind now. It's from the top down. So they give you see Avon and his mistakes. you see Stringer and his mistakes, and you see you see with Bernard and even the girl. Forget about her. She's she's just a girlfriend. She's not even part of the organization. You see Bernard and his mistakes. A guy who we hadn't even seen before. So this is a complete. I think they showed all these characters. This is a complete breakdown. This is not one aspect of their organization breaking down. This is all aspects that are coming apart. So we get to Burrell. No, so we get to Herc. Yeah, Herc, Kima, and McNulty. So Herc lets Kima and McNulty know that he's seen Avon, and they don't believe it at first. They don't believe it. And even McNulty says, no fucking way. But Herc says, yeah, no, I saw him. Go check it out for yourself. I saw Big Man, and so we'll see how that plays out. What were your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, set up.
And we get to Burrell, Dozeman, and Royce. So they have this big, for show press conference where they give Dozeman his gun back, and Burrell is there, Royce is there, Carcetti's watching on TV, taking notes, and Dozeman was like the least happiest person in that room. Like Dozeman's face told you all you needed to know about, his thoughts on the entire situation. Like Dozeman could care less about a gun. As soon as Burrell says, hopefully he gets back to duty, soon, you see Dozeman's face cringe as, like, right. What? Like, okay. So again, this was all for show, photo op. And again, I think the show depicted that, all this going through all this for a gun. And this was just all for show to make themselves look, to make the police department, look good when basically nothing has been accomplished. Like, and they.
Right, it's all lies. None of that happened.
None of that was true. Like they didn't.
As we know how it happened.
Right. So this was all for show. As Carcetti watches on, taking his typing a letter of concern. We get back to the detail. So the detail gets back. They immediately we see McNulty look up Avon on the computer. They realize that Avon is out. Now everybody realizes that Avon is out. In the detail, Lester, Daniels, of course, surprised, and Kima, of course, gets upset, and that's how gets upset and tosses a folder, tosses something, a folder holder, as the episode wraps up. What were your thoughts on them finding out Avon was out?
This is what now let's put this into a really big bow since we're at the end here. So this is what I mean by the engineers of their own destruction. I said in season 1 that the original sin was Brandon, right? And the reason why the original sin was Brandon is because that upped the pressure on them, on the organization, that brought all the lights on them. The other sin is Avon wanting to get out of jail, wanting to get back on the street early. That's the second sin. Him forcing his way out will be. So that's why this is so important, and that's why, like, when you texted me, you were absolutely right. Like, this is such an important setup episode because now this is the shift, right? You had McNulty and Daniels at each other. You got Kima running around. You got, the squad. They can't focus on who is there. They're irritated. We're switching from target to target. The police, everything. Like, everybody's at different places in terms of the police or the surveillance part of the city involved in that, in terms of like what they're thinking about in the Barstow organization, and then this this is the beginning of galvanizing everybody to one cause.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
So,
the rallying of the troops, so to speak. Because they were all over the place.
They were fractured. They were fractured.
They were
fractured.
No,
they definitely were.
They were fractured.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that it was, seeing Avon, back on the street, and I think that the fact that it was Herc that spotted him, it wasn't Kima, it wasn't Freeman, it wasn't McNulty, it was Herc. So it's like, dude, you got spotted by like one of the worst cops on the show from a skill standpoint. Because of how bad you wanted to be back on the street. And again, he falls into that category of, you mentioned last week, of just, tunnel vision, just not seeing the whole picture. Just, hey, I want these corners, I want these corners. I want, I want Marlo. I want these corners. I want to take down Marlo.
He wants the corners.
Yeah. So you had that going on. As far as the themes that we talked about, again, we talked about, I said death of 1,000 cuts. Of course, that's of course describing the Barksdale organization. You talk about truth hurts, and we mentioned, conscience. Mentioned
all the real conversations. Yep.
Mentioned all the real conversations, and mentioned the characters who had no conscience whatsoever in regards to McNulty, McNulty and Colvin. And also I actually could put, no, it's a different type. That's a different type of. I was about to say Avon, but Avon's is just strictly tunnel vision. But thinking that McNulty and Colvin fell into that category as far as not caring about how their actions impacted the others. We see McNulty. We see what happens with Kima because of going out with McNulty, following around McNulty. You see what Amsterdam looks like at night because of what Colvin wants in regards to trying to save his district and trying to save his district. So I thought this episode did a great job of showing both sides of the epigraph of conscience due cost. Great bridge episode. Of course, we know next week the shit is going to completely hit the fan. Who'd you have for your MVP? I had a tough time coming up with one.
Hey, the MVP in my mind is Omar.
Okay.
I did a more character based, like in the episode 1, and he got the gun. The gun Buck's face says it all when he takes the gun out of the bag, like how big a deal this was.
Yes, that definitely was. Yeah.
So I'm giving Omar my MVP.
Yeah, that I could definitely see that. No, I'm fine. That's fine. This was a difficult one, difficult time, a difficult episode to have an MVP with. But I have no problem with that one. What about your Shardine Award?
Shardine Award goes to Bubbles for that scene.
Yeah. No, that was.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Like I always, me. I've been consistent on this, but I'm a sucker for you give me emotion without saying a word. And it was, the majority of that he's just looking and showing everything on his face without barely using any words. White tea. What do you got? Like he used, like the words he's using is talking about like that until he gets to Joey. But for the most part, he's just looking, and we experience the horror at a visceral level because of Andre Royal, right?
Yeah, that's
Royal, not Royale, Royal.
Royal.
Because of his performance. So pretty spectacular, I must say.
I had Cuddy and the Deacon. I really like that scene. I had both of them as the
Yeah,
Sharpton War.
that was a good one.
Yeah, so but yeah, the Bubbles one was definitely just. I mean, we, like I said, you love the acting without just basically saying nothing.
Yep, yep, yep.
His
I love those things.
facial expression, yeah,
Yep.
all body language, facial expression, that told it all. Well, this was a excellent bridge episode, a necessary episode to get you to what is going to transpire to for the rest of the season. This was a very, you know, they had to do an episode like this in order to pull off what they're going to pull off for the next 5 episodes. So even though it might have moved somewhat slow a little bit, they had to have an episode. You had to have an episode like this, and you will see the payoff. The next 5 episodes, you will see the payoff. You're going to see immediate payoff next episode. Next episode is a big episode. Be looking forward to it. As always, thanks to Rob Sapp for joining the program.
All right, sir. Everybody be safe, be healthy out there.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. This episode will probably be up. Be up early Sunday morning. And of course, I will be on. You'll hear from me not next, but on Tuesday to break down the NFL and some pop culture as well. That's going to wrap it up. I will see you next time. I'm out.